After 1,545 days dethroned as the Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido II returns to Kano State to be reinstated as the Emir of Kano. Welcome to the program. My name is Adewale Olashopo, and you're watching Headline Reviews on Afro Connect TV. On our program, we select headlines on our national dailies for you, and we go through them to analyze, dissect, and understand what exactly they mean for you at home or wherever you are in the world. My name is Adewale Olashopo again, and today I will be joined by a commentator and a political analyst, Shola Onimode. Welcome to the program, Mr. Shola.
So Adewale, it's good to be here. I see you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having
me.
Yeah, for joining us on the program today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It really is a pleasure. 1,545 days out of being the Emir of Kano State. But he's back in Kano today, and he will be reinstated. This and many more is what we're going to be looking at today. But thank you very much again, and we'll go on this short break. When we return, we will be taking the news one after the other. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining, this is Headline Reviews on Afro Connect TV. I am Adewale Olashopo. Before I went on that short break, I introduced my guest today, Mr. Shola Onimode. We start off the program with the Punch newspaper this morning. Sanusi in Kano to receive appointment letter today. The reinstated Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido, has arrived at Kano State Government House to receive the letter of appointment before resuming duty as a new Emir. The new first-class Emir of the state was honored in a homecoming reception late Thursday. Lamido is expected to be at the Africa House in Kano Government House for a mini-Doba ceremony at 10 a.m. today, from where he would proceed to the Nasara Emir's Palace. From there, the Emir will lead the Muslim Jumat prayer on Friday at the Kano Central Mosque located at the palace in Kofar Kudu. Mr. Shola, it's interesting to see how the numbers of the days we were looking at, 1,545 days that he was away when he was dethroned by the former governor of Kano State, Mr. Ganduje. And now we're seeing people are saying that power doesn't stay in one place as it comes and goes. Yeah, and there was a law that was repealed by the State Assembly, and another law was put in place to ensure that all other emirs that were elevated in the state had also been dethroned, and the governor told them that he gives them 48 hours to vacate the premises of the palace that they have been given by the former governor. What exactly does this tell you about the leadership style in Kano, the politics in Kano State, and also the preference that the people somehow seem to have for Lamido, and how he holds such high esteem in the state as well? Because looking at it broadly, he used to be serving member of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the rose to the highest highest power in the CBN as the CBN governor. Thereafter, after he was also sacked by the then president Goodluck Jonathan during close to the end of his tenure at that time. He then proceeded to become the Emir of Kano, 14th Emir of Kano at that time. So, and we're seeing him back, and it's all frenzy, it's all important guests, it's all celebration all across the state.
It's an interesting time to be alive.
It
Let me
is.
start that way. Karaye, Bichi, Rano, and Kano, and the fifth one is eventually collapsed to become the Kano of over 1,000 years. For traditional positions, this is what you rarely see. Yes, you see governors come and go. You see people elected to the Senate, they lose their seats, they get elected again. You see people suspended or their elections not being upheld by the courts. They go out of office, they go to elections, rerun, they get their offices back again. But it is rare to see traditional positions like that of an emir, a king, happening this way. But for Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, again, it's a record. That's what we will say. However, 4 years after, as the social media space is saying, the return of the king.
Yeah.
So should a king go and return? That's the story for another day. However, prior to Sanusi Lamido Sanusi being enthroned as the Emir of Kano back in 2014, we will understand that his removal as the governor of CBN came amid the controversies of him calling out the sitting president then as to what led to the failure of some banks in 2014, including some of the banks that were later liquidated, and calling out a few persons who were then part of the government of Dr. Goodluck Jonathan.
It does quite have a very stubborn reputation, don't you think?
But then, if you understand the history and the person of Sanusi Lamido, the word stubborn might not. I rather want to say it to be, I know what it is and the right thing should be done. However, whatever the right thing is should then be a moral justification of individuals. For Sanusi Lamido, the right thing was not done. He was speaking to it. But for the presidency, it appears he shouldn't be speaking, especially where we expect you as the CBN governor to be one of us. So you cannot sit on the same table and cast the stone at us. So he was excused. But interestingly, as nature will have it, or as some other persons will have it, he was appointed as the governor of, as the Emir of Kano, and as the 14th Emir of Kano by then Senator Musa Kwankwaso of Kano. And his reign came with a whole lot of, you also remember that Sanusi Lamido was, is also in the same family lineage as the late Ado Bayero. So expecting him to become a king, especially because he was in the CBN, one would not expect it. But then when it happened, a whole lot of Kano sons and daughters welcomed it. However, the Sanusi we know will not keep quiet. So the northern Nigeria kind of leadership is such that you rarely see leaders coming out to say so much. But for Sanusi, what he was hammering at most was about the out-of-school children, of course, which a whole lot of us have always called the government, the leadership of across the 19 northern states to pay attention to. But for some reasons, he was considered to be speaking too much and had to be excused. And then the creation of several other Emirate Council. But then you remember that the Emir now, who is now deposed for Sanusi to come in, is also in the same family lineage. So we dare say whether for those who are outside of the Kano Emirates, it's been a case of a family affair, even though government has to come into it. But for the return of the king, we say, Emir Sanusi Lamido, welcome again.
Exactly.
It's good to have a developmental economics person, and that's the aspect where I look at. Kano is said to be the center of commerce. So a person who is an economist will be expecting that we'll use our population well to develop the region. And so speaking about it, for me, it's not supposed to be what anybody will frown against. But then, the sitting governor then, Dr. Abdullah Umar Ganduje, considered him to be speaking too much, and he was excused. Interestingly, the fallout between the former governor then, that's from Senator Kwankwaso to Abdullah Ganduje and now to Abba Yusuf. It seemed to be, we're different before, we're together now, we're different again. And that's what has brought about.
Well, exactly. There is no permanent friend or permanent enemy
in politics,
right? And as you can see now,
they shouldn't be taken
in what's it called? In Kano as well. But perhaps it's not a same equivalence, but we've seen such happen as well in Oyo State, where the former governor, the late governor, Ajimobi, who also created a lot of, raised the position
of some ballets to become substantial
kings in some part of the Oyo State, particularly Ibadan. And when another governor came, that is the person of the recent governor, Seyi Makinde, he also dissolved all of those people and make sure that the supreme leader of Oyo State, of Ibadan itself, who is the Olubado, will continue to reign power in the state. But exactly, we can say that politics itself will always influence whatever decision, as long as the rights and accountability to repose, or whatever it is in the state rest heavily on the state governor. Show that he will continue to do that. But just like you said, we look forward to what Abdullah Ganduje would do continuously, as he has done in the state.
As a closure to this, I like to also hope that in moving forward, we don't bring the traditional council into our political life. A whole lot of the political elites are doing too much into this, and that's what I think is pulling down our traditional councils, and it shouldn't continue. We hope that this will be an end to the power tussle on the Kano Emirate.
Exactly. We look forward to that, but also we cannot disagree that the influence also intertwine, as we've seen in the Kano State. But moving on to another news for today, we're talking about the issue of the ongoing reform in the system in the country. This is coming from the Tribune newspaper. Pains of ongoing reforms will soon be over, said by Cardoso. Ahead of his 1 year in office, the CBN governor, Yemi Cardoso, has said the pains of ongoing reforms will soon be over if Nigerians can support the monetary and fiscal policies of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led administration. Cardoso, represented by Dr. Blaise Ijebo, Risk Management, said this Thursday while participating in a panel discussion during the Vanguard Economic Discourse in Lagos with the theme Reforms in the Era of Global Economic Uncertainties with Nigeria. He was responding to economic and financial issues raised during the session by organized labor, bureau de change operators, manufacturers, and economic advisors. He said inflation had many parts of which the government was trying to fix. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration is coming to a 1 year in May 29, as we've seen it. There's so many policies that this government has made, and a lot of people have criticized it as anti-people. And we've seen how he has shown that he's someone that is capable, someone that seems to be at the helm of affairs. He has fired, or let's say, moved some ministers from one ministry to another. We've seen him suspend some ministers. A minister in his cabinet, we've seen him do a lot of things. We've seen him listen about the issue of the students' loan and recall and also re-implement some of the concerns that people had. We've seen him do a lot of things. But has there been anything this administration has done that we can see that it is really favoring the people? Because just like Cardoso has also said, who is the CBN governor, that the reforms that the pain of the reform will soon be over soon. That shows that they understand that the people are being told to go through an untold pain that we haven't, the likes of which we haven't seen in years. We're talking about inflation, double-digit inflation that continues to rise, pushing the people into abject poverty in the country. But then again, we look at how other countries that have gone through this same situation, like the Chinese that closed their economy, that were able to do reforms for over 40 years, and they've been able to build up themselves. People are saying that whenever we do this, the government will tell us perhaps, okay, let us wait for 8 years or for 4 years for reforms to happen. Then after that, another administration will come in. After that, another administration will come in. And then it continues as a continuum over the years, different administration from one to another. And the concrete results that we're looking for has not been realized. Does it have to take 1 year for the administration to even be coming at this juncture to be telling us that we should still wait for things to get better? If situations, for instance, for issues of tariff hike in different kind of our system, we look at the inflation, food inflation in the country, we look at the electricity tariff hike, we look at this cyber security levy, that had it not been for people clamoring about it, perhaps the federal government would not have withhold that process and told it to be paused for the meantime. Now we do not know, perhaps they will pause for 2-3 months and people will come die down, and then they will bring it back again and make it a law, and people have to live through that. So what exactly is this government doing? People are asking to make sure that lives are better and easier for the people.
About 1 year in office, President Tinubu and his team, whether you want to look at it from those directly appointed into the Federal Executive Councils, that is the ministers, others who are special advisors, or appointments into every other sector, including security. It's, for me, if you give a man 4 years to do a job, to get a job done, while it is proper to have a long-term plan, that's a 4 years plan, it is also proper to have breakers. And at these break sessions, you should expect to review what you have done, how far are we going, are we even moving in the right direction. So if you ask me, encouraging Nigerians to support the system is not same as saying citizens should endure, or we're taking you through another long another long episode of this suffering. Nigerians are not having this interesting. It is not an interesting times. Nigerians are aware. However, as a nation and for proper leadership, I dare say for the president and his team, especially from the central bank, looking through the policies, especially when you look at tax reforms, tax being raised, and at this point we are almost at an all-time high tax percentage that is being recalled from Nigerians. When you look at these reforms and the CBN governor encouraging Nigerians to support, to be more patient, this is me saying, if they are able to, if the CBN is able to come out to say, yes, you also made a mention that a few policies have been introduced, and when Nigerians screamed, they were withdrawn. It does tell you that the government is listening. However, the few that have not been withdrawn, especially the one that is biting everybody, looking at the removal of fuel subsidy, which almost every, not even almost, I dare say 101% of the economy sector is affected. That aspect is what Nigerians want you to revisit. And when you also look at electricity tariff, so you are battling with the removal of subsidy in one hand, at the other shoulder, you have electricity tariff that you have to battle with. And that's not to talk about the almighty dollar that is turning economies around. So you want to understand that the CBN making pronouncements and calling on Nigerians to be patient on these economic reforms is not out of place. But you also want to look at it from when you talk about dollar. The CBN can only regulate. Central Bank of Nigeria does not produce the dollar. So of course, this aspect of the economies is where Nigerians will have to look at and then try to take palliative measures to see how we can move on with the reality, whether we like it or not. Policies don't change economies in days.
Exactly.
When you have policies that you put in place, you have to follow up for an extended period of time.
If I can stay on that, the issue of the policy, briefly, if you can, because we're running out of time right now, with the issue of fiscal and monetary policies that we've seen the Central Bank of Nigeria implement over the years, would you say that was it advised properly for the issue of the flotation of the naira? Because we're hearing from different quarters right now that our foreign reserves and some of money that have been put in some of the banks abroad or in some other countries have been used to defend the naira, while the central bank has said that we are not defending it, but we're seeing it depleting before our eyes, and we're seeing the naira perhaps it go 1,000 today, 1,001 tomorrow, 1,003. Some other days it comes so very low. Are we getting it right? Very briefly, can you assess that?
We need to understand that floating the currency. Now, we need to first get, what does that floating mean? It simply means throw your exchange rate open such that demand supplies guide how much is extended. If you ask me personally, I will say it is the best, but then you want to ask about timing. Is the timing right? I will say no. You want to put all other indicators in place. Look at how much of the major driver of your economy is being regulated. If we're not importing fuel, if we're not importing all of the everyday goods, say if we have about 40% reduction in what we import, we can throw the fiscal policy open such that let the market forces drive how much we have as exchange rate. And with time, these things will take care of themselves. You want to also look at it from the aspects of communications. If the Nigeria Communication Commission had not allowed the space to be liberal, by now we would have still been battling with government trying to regulate communication. So
exactly, I believe that this policy would have its critics and would have its supporters, because some would say, of course, we've been able to close the gap between the parallel market and the official market. That is forgone. But another thing we would say is that for this to happen, we have to be a producing nation, and this is what some other political parties, such as the PDP and also the Labour Party, have said, that we need to be a producing nation for us to be able to float the currency and be able to ensure that we get the right value for it. But we cannot continue to dwell in that to ensure that we've said our part. The governments are listening, and people will continue to hold them to account as they clock 1 year in their office. Moving on to our last paper for today, from the nation's newspaper, court seizes 4.7 million naira, $4.7 million and 830 million naira multi-billionaire assets linked to Emefiele. The Federal High Court sitting at Ikoyi, Lagos, has ordered an interim forfeiture of the sum of $4,719,000 and 830 million naira of for the person of the former CBN governor Emefiele. Justice Yelin Bogoro made the order on Thursday, May 23rd, 2024, following an expert argument of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Council in the court. Now we've seen that the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria is still in the ropes with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and it seems that this is a thing that keeps on giving. On one hand, we saw the crimes or the laws that were roped on his neck by the illegal possession of firearm, the reason it was taken to court in the first instance. But thereafter, we've seen different crimes, monetary, money laundering, and whatever charges that has been brought against him and the court of law. And now we've seen that an interim forfeiture has been given that we should seize this. My question is then, how was the Central Bank of Nigeria's governor able to mop up this money over the years? What business has he been doing? Who were they doing the business with? How did he be able to accumulate such wealth in this small space of time? Even if he has accumulated this prior to the time that he was in office, how did he get to be able to do this without going through the radar of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission? Because he was vetted before he became the CBN governor. And that's what we're saying about our ministers. They go through ICPC, they go through EFCC, and then at the end of 4 years, we begin to regroup together and talk about the things that they've embezzled or things that has been in their bank since ages. What then was the investigation that was supposed to bring them into their office? What exactly did this investigation achieve? Was it a rubber stamp exercise?
Let me be quick to say the former CBN, or the embattled CBN governor, or the embattled former CBN governor, is one person who survived 3 administrations. You recall that he was appointed by Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. He survived through the Muhammadu Buhari administration and made it into the Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. In fact, a few of us felt he was going to continue. And if he had survived up to 4 generations, you might then be asked as an accounting or a banking and finance student, go and study how he was able to do it. If you have an economy that is constantly being padded with secret documents that is not open, what you are saying is exactly what you will experience. However, while the name Godwin Emefiele keep appearing, because he is the position that is being charged of, you need to understand the government, the EFCC at this time has not taken Godwin Emefiele to court. They have taken the CBN governor then to courts. So these are 2 different persons. Godwin Emefiele, before becoming the CBN governor, has no battle with the government. But as at when he was CBN governor until the period when he had to go out of office is what the government is battling. And we need to also ask salient questions. Was Godwin Emefiele in charge of every aspect of finances? How many other persons should be punished? How did that such an amount made it? It's about us giving too much powers. You will understand that when too much power, as they say, power corrupts absolutely. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So too much power was given to the embattled CBN governor. Else you wouldn't want to, you want to ask a few questions about how much money he has, to the point that he's able to fight a government almost to a standstill. This is not us talking about how much money was spent in printing of currency that we term as the most harsh economic policy the country ever faced in about a century, if I dare say. So for me, it is important that we take this aspect of the crime fight head on and not trying to selectively do these prosecutions. Godwin Emefiele did not do this alone. Who are the ABC? Who is we need to call on every other person who was a part of the dealings.
Exactly.
And if he was audited before becoming CBN governor, if I were your president, every other person who was a part of the audit team will
must
have
be sanctioned appropriately as well. And you mentioned about his survivability. Perhaps we could attribute that to his skillful political
dribbling, right?
maneuvering.
At a point, he wanted to become president.
At a point, we were thinking he would emerge as the president, as we've seen all his posters everywhere,
and so
clamoring for
perhaps if he had become president, maybe he would have been CBN governor and also president. We have a president who was also minister of
exactly. A lot of critics against how he managed the Central Bank of Nigeria and some of its fiscal and monetary policies that have kept Nigeria where we are today, and the huge gap between the parallel and official market allegations of how he's been selling some of dollars to his friends and some colleagues and some business people in
and if these
in the official market, and they go to the parallel markets, the black market, as many people know it, to sell to people, and then the bulk of the money they send it back to the federal government. These are things that will the government must ensure that they're properly prosecuted, and Nigeria will be made known exactly what has been happening, what has been recovered, what the money has been spent on, and who the people that have brought the processes that brought him into power, and what has kept him there for all the several years from one administration to the other. That successfully must also be checked and adequately sanctioned. Thank you so much, Mr. Shola Onimode, for being a part of this conversation today. We hope to have you next time as we go through our normal, usual program here on AfroConnect TV.
It's good to be here.
Thank you so much. And thank you too for being a part of this edition of the program. I am Adewale Olashopo. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms displayed on the screen right now. Before we come again on Monday, do well to read, stay up to date, and be informed, because only an informed mind can make an informed decision for yourself and for the country. My name is Adewale again, and until Monday, bye for now.